Welcome, unprofessionals, to another exciting episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy. And we've got Cerise with us. So I know Cerise because we've had 3 episodes where we had people who I know from Quora, which maybe I'm making Quora more popular. We should make them a sponsor. But anyway, so Cerise's brother, heretofore be known as the Blood Ninja, I met on Quora and we had a lot of comical interactions and we talked some podcast stuff. We've talked all sorts of crazy stuff. And then he said, hey, my sister's a teacher. You should have her on the podcast. And then I said, well, yes. And then he said, I don't know what word he used. And Tedisco told me, what's the politically correct word, Tedisco?
Is it child correctional facility?
Juvenile hall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We always call it, Juvie hall. So you call it, okay. So Tedisco has a politically,
Juvie.
We call it Juvie?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll call it Juvie then, because that's what we call it. But we've never had a teacher who teaches in Juvie before, so that's really interesting to us. Well, I do want to get into this. I do want to ask this question, because your brother, the Blood Ninja, claims that his father, I don't know your whole family dynamic. I know there's lots of blended families, but is your father also the former Mouseketeer?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
So that's
He's a
really...
former child actor. He's got an IMDB page, and that's our original claim to fame, I guess.
Yeah, that's really cool, you know? And you have no IMDB page.
No.
Me neither.
Okay.
My mom would not let my brother and I go into show business. She said it made my dad crazy.
So did you end up meeting famous people when you were a child and growing up?
Not really, but there was definitely, whenever there would be like a black and white Western type of movie, we'd pause for a minute and be like, oh, is dad in this? Sure enough, like 50% of the time he was in the show or movie that we were watching. Yeah. I still see him every now and then on late night AMC or something.
That's wild. That's really cool. And we'll link his IMDb page in the show notes. So what was his actual, his name?
Well, his name is Brady Morrow, but I believe his stage name was Bradley Morrow because Morrow sounded too ethnic in the 50s.
Okay.
Everything sounded too ethnic in the 50s.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's so great to have you with us today, Cerise.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you kind of just walk us through what exactly was like your sort of teaching journey? So what kind of student were you, and then going into what brought you to teaching at a juvenile hall?
Sure. So I never set out to become a teacher. School was okay on a social aspect, but I was a C student, and I actually started, my now husband and I dated in high school, and both of his parents are teachers. And so we went to college. I majored in Native American Studies. I thought I was going to go into law, but it took me 6 years to get my bachelor's, and I was not about to do another 8 years of college. So I just started working kind of whatever jobs. I worked in a sex shop. I worked at a jewelry store. And then I answered an ad in the paper to do AmeriCorps. So I actually worked under the Youth Serve branch. And I worked as a mentor to disadvantaged youth. And that's kind of how I got involved with community school in my county. And when my term of service was up, one of the teachers reached out to me and said, hey, we're hiring for an aide. Do you want this job? And so my first job with them was being an aide at, it's actually called the regional facility. It's an extension of juvenile hall. It's for the kids who have severe drug and alcohol problems and mental health issues. And so they kind of get extra services. And so from there, I did a little bit of this and that. I was the registrar at the school. And then I had my first kid, and my boss was like, go get your teaching credential. So that's what I did. And so this is my 5th year teaching now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that must be, that population must be so challenging, but the success stories must feel so rewarding.
Yeah, I'd say, it's kind of, the successes are few and far between, but they're big when we get them. And, the stakes are a little bit lower, and our goal isn't always necessarily, graduation, but to give them the skills and the tools to be fully functional and contributing adults to the community, you know.
What are the ages that you deal with generally?
So, juvenile hall, they try not to take in the real young ones, but we sometimes get between 7th grade and 12th grade. So I teach all subjects. I have a multiple subject credential, even though I primarily work in high school, but because I teach all subjects.
Yeah. Okay, so you just teach everything to a wide variety of kids with a massive amount of issues.
Right. Oh, yeah. That all have like that like come and go. Like you might see a kid for a month, or a kid might be in there for years, I guess. Right.
Right.
And then you have the ones that
generally not the years aspect anymore. There's a lot of things that have changed since I've been a part of it. I mean, there in the past, we had students who were there for very long, extended periods of time, and in for really trivial stuff. And so things have kind of shifted, and we really you don't see a kid go to juvenile hall unless they've committed a felony.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. So that has made your job slightly harder, I guess, huh?
Yeah. The numbers have been down.
Tougher. Right.
Yeah, but the kids that we get, it's a rougher group. And surprisingly, even though I live in a really rural community, we get a lot of gang issues and stuff. And so, you know, when you have two rivals in there or
oh boy,
or groups of rivals, then it can be exciting.
And you teach you're a lady of the female persuasion. Listeners can
I identify that way. Yeah.
I mean, I know gender is a whole spectrum now. I'm not getting into that issue, but do you only teach young ladies, or do you teach the fellas as well?
No, it's a mixed group.
Oh, wow.
When you teach in juvenile hall, there is always at least one and sometimes two correction officers, we call them COs, in the classroom with you. And of course, you know, you're being videotaped and monitored. And,
oh my goodness.
You know, things happen, but me personally, I've never really felt unsafe. My primary goal with my students is to create some respect between us. And that's how these kids operate. If they don't respect you, or they perceive that you don't respect them, then things get really difficult. So
I'm going to ask you a weird question. Okay. I'm going to guess the answer is no. But, so I had a colleague that I taught, and, my first year at, teaching, I came to this school that had merged two schools, and one was kind of more of a suburban-y, affluent school, and then they absorbed another small school because this school had they'd built another one. Anyway, long story short, it became like much more diverse, and they absorbed a school where a lot of the diversity came all from one school. So now our school is it's not as broken up, but then it was like, oh, it's the these kids and the those kids. And they also hired some of the teachers from the rougher, tougher school. And one of those became my friend. He was a colleague, and we taught the same thing. And so his mentor advice to me was to handle the rough kids. He's like, so when they first come in, I make them feel like dirt. And I insult them so they feel horrible. He goes, but then they respect me, and then I can be nice to them after that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of that. I don't know what book you got that from. Yeah.
So yes and no. Like I could see how that approach might work for a man, maybe, but that approach is not the route that I would take. Now right. I bring it down to their level, you know, use their language. Hey girl, like, hey bro, things like that. Right. And I curse a lot with my students. Here's the thing. You don't curse at them, but you curse with them. So you can say F that. You just can't say F you. Right. And that's how I operate in my classrooms too. And it might make some people cringe, but you know, like you get a lot more honesty out of the kids if they can just feel comfortable enough to talk however they would talk to their friends. Yeah. And so you kind of break those walls down.
And honestly, one of the keys with swearing isn't like telling kids never swear, because that's unrealistic. Everybody swears. You got to teach them how to. Because a lot
it's
of them,
about timing and context and all of that stuff. So
I have a stepson, he's 9, and I tell him all the time, listen, if I ever get into a car accident, you're not going to hear me say, oh, horse feathers. Like, I'm going to swear, but we don't curse at each other, right? We don't curse, out of anger, and I just kind of give him those parameters. Yeah.
My husband's a commercial fisherman, so
my
kids are around a bunch of salty sailors, and then me working in juvenile hall, so... Yes. They're familiar.
I think to become a commercial, you have to take some kind of certification in, we say cussed down here in North Carolina, but you have to take some kind of certification in cussing to become a commercial fisherman, I think, just to get your license. Is that right?
I mean, it kind of comes with the territory, I guess. Yeah. School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Wow. So, I guess the other question I had that's kind of interesting is, cause you said they're kind of changing the rules about how they end up in there and not. Do you have, repeat customers who come and go and come back, and how often does that happen?
Sure. I mean, like I said, things have changed a little bit more now, but in a few years ago and everything, it was kind of a revolving door. And, you get these kids in, maybe you get them counseling, you get them clean, they're eating 3 meals a day, they're sleeping, maybe they have medication that they need or straightened out. And then once they are released, they go right back into the same place they came from, and families who work all crazy hours, or maybe they're addicted to drugs or alcohol themselves, and so these kids don't, so they do the same thing, they come right back. It's kind of a boomerang system. But and then there's the kids who do something severe enough that they go to the Department of Justice, and that is, they used to be like youth camps and stuff. They've really taken them away, but there's still a few. And then there's the kids who turn 18 and they go directly to big boy jail. Yeah. So, and I read about them in the paper all the time.
And I know we all know that there's that seesaw of like, I want to be tough, but they've also got like a soft side. And are there times where the kids got maybe like a week or so before they're going to big boy jail, where they are just obviously scared for their lives at that point?
Oh yeah. And you see it in different ways, whether it's, withdrawing from everything or acting out, either way. But, and it's sad to say, but a lot of the kids also know once they go to jail, they'll be released pretty soon, because our jails are overcrowded and they just get, put on probation, and especially right now with the COVID epidemic and everything going on, they're just released. There's a lot of crime going on. There's a lot of people just being released and stuff.
Oh man. Okay. And the other thing that's one of the challenges must be is, we as teachers, and we obviously in a regular classroom, we have kids that transfer in here and there and transfer out. But with yours, because one of the things they teach you as a teacher, you've got to set the tone and create a classroom environment. And that works for the most part, where you kind of create this kind of atmosphere and everyone there knows what kind of class this is and what kind of person you are. And you kind of develop
like the whole class must reshuffle. So
It can be day to day. You don't plan extended lessons. It's just like one a day type of thing. And you can do some extended stuff. We try to do that with, we will pick a book and we'll read the whole book, and students will have to jump in wherever we are and be expected to just, get on the page. But yeah, it's a lot of one a day stuff. And you're teaching kids with all different levels. They have IEPs. I don't know if you call it that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you're dealing with all, and then we get kids that are super feral that maybe have never been to school before, and they're 17 and don't know how to read. And so you get a lot of behaviors, a lot of those kids acting out in class.
Do the other kids though that have been there for maybe like a few weeks or a month or two vouch for you and say, hey, she's cool. Don't mess with her, to get defensive? And does it get kind of like absolutely. A little tribal and stuff like that?
They get very protective of me or whoever, staff person. You'll get a kid who's never been in there and will come out with some attitude, and the class kind of will get that kid in line, like, oh, no, she's cool. You don't want to mess with her. Like, she's going to hook you up, but I also have to do my job. So I also have to hold them to a standard. I have to call them out on their stuff, and you just can't let anything slide. You have to be rigid, but you also have to be like cool and open.
Yeah. So that's a very fine line to
quite the
to
balancing
walk.
act.
Which is why
Yes.
I don't think I could ever teach in like a mainstream school. That's just not for me. I like this population. I like this group, you know, the roughness and everything. I don't know. It kind of takes some of the pressure off. Like no one's focusing on my test scores.
No.
You know, telling me that I need to, I'm not teaching to the standards or Common Core or this or that. You know, sometimes we're just trying to get through the day.
Observations must be easy when they're recording you all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and my boss has also done my job. So since I've been there, we've had two principals. The original principal who hired me, she started as a corrections officer before she got her teaching credential and then became the principal. And then my now principal was the teacher I worked for in the regional facility when I first started as an aide. So most people in community school totally understand the population you're working with and the challenges involved with that.
What's the turnover and burnout rate at that school? Do you see a lot of that, or?
Oh yeah. Right now I'm actually teaching an independent study, which is like a community school. It's an extension of the court school, like a transition in between. I also get the students who have been expelled from their mainstream high school, or they have truancy issues or homelessness and things like that. So they might not fit the criteria to go to juvenile hall, but they need an alternative education setting. And, you know, I'll get new kids every week and I'll have to drop kids every week for non-attendance or lack of production and things like that. So there is a high turnover, but our graduation rates have been steadily increasing over the years. It's really cool.
No, I mean the turnover of the teachers that go like, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to reach these terrible youths that have been that are suffering. I'm going to go in there and, I'm get my Michelle Pfeiffer on and,
oh my God, I love that movie. That might have inspired me. You know, actually where I work, we have a pretty solid group of staff that once they're there, they're locked in there. We have had, you know, through the years, you know, one position that kind of does turn over quite a bit, but you know, once you're there a couple of years, you're sticking it out. And a lot of, my peers have been there for most of their career, 20 plus years and things like that. So that's what I hope to do too, is, you know, ride it out and stick with community school. I'm not a mainstream person.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm also, and I apologize that we're just kind of quickly lobbing questions at you, but
no,
your job is fascinating. So, you said you teach every subject.
Yeah.
How? Like, okay, so are there any subjects that like you struggle with or you hate? Or do you just try to find things about all of them that you can apply, or like? Honestly,
my least favorite is probably English. I'm not very well trained in all the nuances of like, what's a predicate and what's a, I just, you know, I want them to write, but I'm not hypercritical of the way that they write. I'd say my favorite subject is algebra. That makes the most sense to me. I struggled with it at first myself as a student, but then it just kind of clicked. And so that's what I find myself teaching the most, because most of these guys are working independently out of packets and stuff because they are all in different levels. And so the one-on-one teaching that I do the most of is math and algebra. Okay, but yeah, English is not my jam.
Now I've got this
probably not theirs either.
I've got this weird picture in my head, okay, and you're gonna have to clarify because you know a whole lot more about it than we do. But so since you teach all the subjects, so now it's like almost like a elementary school teacher, but with like a bunch of like juvenile delinquents. Is it like, okay, now
really
it's
similar.
reading time, now it's math time, let's go sit on the rug and I'll read you a story, and do we have, you know,
in a way, yes.
And recess and, you know.
Yeah.
Do you, in art and yes. Gym? Do you do art and gym and music?
Absolutely. Well, especially, you know, the students who are in juvenile hall, your whole day revolves around when can I get outside? And I live in kind of a rainy area, and we can't take the kids out if the ground is wet, if it's actively raining or if the ground is wet. So we wind up having to do things inside. But yeah, no, we do PE. The students, I got my teaching credential in multiple subjects, and my student teaching was done in a kindergarten class and a fourth grade class, which actually apply really well to working with the population I do. They need a schedule on the board. They want to stick to the schedule. They're looking at that clock minute by minute, like, okay, when are we done with this reading time so I can move on to, recess? And it's not recess there, but they get a little break and stuff. So yeah, that is super important. And if you deviate from the system, like you say, you have a guest speaker coming and they don't show up, the whole rest of the day can fall apart because these kids they're really dependent on a routine and a schedule.
It's tough to get kids like acclimated to it if they're not used to it, but once they do, that kids really do love structure.
Yes.
Especially ones who don't normally have it at home.
Right. So. And in a school setting, especially juvenile hall, structure is everything. And they get it. And it helps for the rest of the staff too. The COs want to see, like, what are you expecting to do? What are they expected to do? And you have some COs who they're willing to sit down with the kids and help them with their work, and other COs who are completely hands off and they just want to, monitor. So.
Okay. That's why I definitely couldn't do your job either, because I've had schools where, you have to turn in lesson plans and sometimes they'll ask specifically for like, how much time will this take up? I'm like, I don't know. We'll just do it for like minutes, I can't stick to a schedule.
Yeah, we're very
not that kind of person.
For me, I'm super tangential, and I'm like, I guess we're only going to get through half of what I thought was planning on doing, and we'll just do that. So that's the other question I've got. Like, so you've got this transient population, you've got this kind of stuff. Is it almost like this is a really weird analogy? So like the Hall of Presidents, right? Where there's this thing going on, and they're
like in Disney World.
Yes. Or like where you go somewhere where there's like a movie on a loop, you know what I mean, that repeats every like 6 minutes, because there's going to be new people there all the time. Like so now I'm going to try to make your job's really easy, in my opinion. You just make like 8 lessons, and then you just keep doing those like every 8 days, because it'll be new kids doing it. But I know I'm oversimplifying it, but are there like, can you kind of like go, okay, well, no one here has seen this lesson I did a month ago. We're just going to do what I did. Does that happen?
Yes, I can recycle lessons and things like that. There's the same script dialogue that you give a kid. I always like when a kid is admitted into juvenile hall and they haven't ever been in the classroom before, I like to take, 5-10 minutes before class with them and explain the rules and my expectations and what it's going to feel like in here and things like that, just so I can like set up a rapport with them. But yeah, sometimes it can be repetitive, which sometimes can be nice in a place like that, like, oh, I know this lesson works, or I know this activity works. But then again, you get a whole different group and that activity doesn't work at all. And you have no buy-in to it. So yeah. And we watch a lot of, educational films and videos, the kids like Planet Earth and all of those things. Yeah. And so they do get, elective credits and stuff when we watch films like that, when they take notes and teaching them how to take notes and things like that. So,
are there any lessons that you really love doing, or that you find work really well, or you're really kind of proud of?
The art stuff can be really satisfying and really fun when you have the students involved, especially, we like to do mandalas, or we like to do, it seems silly in elementary for high school kids, but like name art and like writing and handwriting, when you take the subject, when you take away the core subjects, the English, the math, the science, the things that the kids perceive as hard, and you give them something that's more enjoyable, then the whole experience is more enjoyable. But then sometimes you have a group that they don't want to do art at all. They don't want to do anything at all. But reading aloud can be really fun too with the groups, if they're willing to, like, some kids really throw themselves in. They like the attention. They've been isolated for so long. They're going to do the voices and they want to stand up and things like that. So that can be a lot of fun.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't, just thinking of throwing out there to you. You do have Chromebooks or some type of computers that they work with?
We have laptops. Yeah, we have laptops, and sometimes that goes great, and sometimes that's hard because that's an object that they can destroy and get a lot of attention for that.
Right.
But we expect that.
I do something on Desmos. I don't know how familiar you are with Desmos, the graphing. It's a graphing calculator type thing, but sort of the algebra. And I don't think it's too far beyond. You may have to walk them through some of it, but I do an activity with my kids where I have them spell their name in graphs, and you can restrict the domain and the range of like a line or a parabola or something like that, and then make it the shapes and all that, and that's offline.
I'll look into that, Desmos. Yeah. We have a really great tech teacher. He's fantastic. He maintains all our technology for us, and he creates lessons for the kids. So it's kind of nice when he's around. And we also have other people in the community that come in to teach the kids different things. We have a guy who's doing he's teaching the kids how to spray paint, actually. And I know that can be
tagging, yes.
Controversial. Yeah, because what are they going to do with it? But the community I live in is really big on community art, and we have some amazing murals throughout town. And so, these kids can do something with that and put in a submission to have one of those pieces and have some of their art up in the community permanently. And so that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, they can find a healthy outlet for some of those things that would normally get them in trouble. Like that's an awesome solution.
Mm-hmm. Sure. The school I have, one of our new programs, we created a greenhouse, and we're teaching our students how to grow hydroponic.
Oh. There's some challenges there that
without being too specific, I live in a place where that is a huge part of my economy. That is what fuels our economy. And so if these kids can get, and now that we've moved into, legalization, these kids can get legit jobs with the skills that they have. And, we're obviously growing vegetables and herbs and things like that. And we're selling to some of the other school districts, or the students will do their own farmers market. So they're learning how to, talk to people and sell to people and managing with money and things like that. So it's a really great opportunity for them.
That's fantastic. So that's great.
That is really cool. I want to circle back to the, to the accountability piece, I guess, is, obviously it varies from, state to state and whatever, but there's graduation requirements that every state have. You need to have this many English, this many math, this many science, and all that.
Yeah.
So the kids that are in there, how often are you able to get them somewhere where they can walk out with an actual credit that would apply towards a high school transcript, or is that not even something that you're attempting to do?
No, all of our credits are transferable. What sometimes happens is you might have a kid who goes to the mainstream school who commits a crime and winds up in juvenile hall and misses several weeks maybe of his school. They're not necessarily going to let him come right back in the middle of the semester. So they're going to send him to community school, which is like the independent study that I do also. And so to catch up on that semester, but whatever they earned in juvenile hall counts towards that. Okay. So the students, if they are in juvenile hall for an extended amount of time, they're not really working in increments of 5, which is generally what we do here, 5 credits a semester. So 10 credits for the full school year. So they might only earn 7 one year, but maybe the next year or the next semester, they work a little harder and they earn 12. So it all transfers over. We're really big on that.
So other teachers send you work and say, hey, this kid's going to be coming back to my class. He's just there for like 3 weeks. Can you have him do these things? So that doesn't happen.
They try to do that, but no, we work in our own curriculum and everything. It's sad to see a kid who was, on the track for college and doing great, but maybe they were selling drugs at school or something like that. And so now they wind up with me, and it's just affected everything. So if it's their senior year, they might not be allowed to transfer back to their school, and they have to finish with us. And then we have students who, maybe they're released from juvenile hall and they go on the run, and we don't see them for a year and a half And so they're way far behind when they catch up, and they're not even really the same kid anymore because of whatever they've been through. So yeah, our goal is to send our students back to their district of residence school, their mainstream school, but that's not always the case. And sometimes they find that community school is a better fit for them, us being alternative education. And, you know, we can give credits for things that maybe you wouldn't be able to get at your district of residence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
you can show them a little more grace.
Do then? Like if they get released and then they're back in their main school and they're realizing that, you know, your classroom was a better fit for them, do they have any options to go back and keep working with you?
Yeah, our school is based on referral. You have to be referred by your district of residence school. And so, we need students to fit a certain criteria, like they're behind in credits or deficient in credits. They have truancy, or maybe they do have homelessness or they're foster youth or something like that. And so we wouldn't necessarily take a kid who's right on track, doing what they need to do, but they've heard that community school is easier and they want to graduate early. We won't necessarily take a kid like that. We're looking for the kids that are struggling, who need that extra support, who need that alternative form of instruction, and not just like, oh, I want to graduate quick. But we do find that a lot of our students will graduate early. We're trying to hold back on that because, you know, you graduate a 16-year-old and there's no options for them until they turn 18. No one wants to hire a 16 or 17-year-old full-time and give them health benefits. Yeah. So we try to hold on to them and enroll them in the community college so that we're kind of supporting them through their first semester or two of that and seeing if that's a path that they can go down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is the part we love funny stories here and we just like to tell just silly stuff that happened and things that went sideways or whatever. And, I can't imagine you have like a shortage of those because I imagine, you know, that it's just stuff that you're like, I can't believe this happened, or I can't believe these kids did this or didn't do this or whatever. So, make us laugh.
The laughing is sometimes harder than the crying. There's so much like tragedy involved.
I understand. Yeah. Sometimes sometimes it's okay if they're sad funny.
I mean, I had a student in juvenile hall and I'm a short person. I'm 5'2". This kid was way shorter than me, but he was tough and he was mean. He was kind of scary. And, he was kind of my buddy. But we play a lot of kickball. That's like one of our favorite PE things. And, oh my God, this kid had a mouth on him like you couldn't believe. And he never turned it on me. But one day he didn't like my call. He was out or something like that. And the stream of profanity that came out of him was unlike anything you've ever heard before. It's like when Elmer Fudd is
yes.
But like cool words, and I was just like, I couldn't even contain my laughter. I had never heard
it. He invented several new curse words just for this rant.
Right.
It was unbelievable. And then they go to their room and they're banging and they're hitting the wall and they're often breaking their hands because they're so mad. They just want to hit something. But this kid went to his room and he calmed down, and within 5 minutes he was like, I'm sorry. That was not
Oh.
Yeah, a little buddy. When it comes to kickball, it's a known fact that there's a force of gravity around my face.
Nice.
I am off.
Oh no.
No matter where I'm standing. And it's not like they're trying. It just always happens. And like they know, and they warn the new kids, like, watch out, try not to hit Cerise in the face with the ball. And that's just.
And you're wearing glasses now, so do you take them off when you go to kickball?
Sometimes it kind of protects me to have them there.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like a weekly thing. It's just this running joke that I'm going to get hit
in the face. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to tell a kickball story then. We can maybe get back to another one of your stories. Yeah. So I was in elementary school, and there was a guy.
As many were.
Yes. Who wasn't? You know?
Right.
I'm still almost in elementary school. And we were playing kickball. I guess it must have been raining or whatever. We were playing in the gym. So basically it's like a basketball court, and like you just put the, home plate in the corner. So there was this kid. He was a little guy as well, but for whatever reason, I don't know what he did, but he had arms that were like no other. I remember when we were in middle school or high school. And, you know, like, normally when you do pull-ups, how many pull-ups can, like, a normal person do? Like 3. Dave Sandler, when we were in high school, was like a machine. He's just like up and down and up and down. You're like, oh my God, how is that possible? He like broke the record for high schools. But this is still an elementary school.
Wow.
And so he was playing way as far in the outfield as you can be in elementary school. So it's a 5th grader. How far can a 5th grader throw a kickball, you think? So this kid had kicked the ball and, you know, all the way to the corner. He thinks he's getting a home run. Dave Sandler from the other corner throws the kickball as hard as he can. It hits the kid in the ankles and literally knocks his feet 2 feet back, and the kid smacks the floor. Like, feet completely horizontal in like 2 seconds from Dave Sandler's throw. And he just, bam! And we're all just standing there like, oh my God, is he like, you know, I don't know if the kid had to go to the nurse or was crying or whatever. I just remember seeing that and seeing literally the kid like in the air from this throw that Dave Sandler had done with the kickball.
That definitely happened once in juvenile hall, and the result was, the result was a fist fight, though.
Oh, I bet it was. He jumps up and he's coming at the kid, right?
Yeah, you did that on purpose, but it was just like cosmic timing, you know? No, I would tell the kids that if they could kick the ball over the back fence, that I would get them a milkshake from this fast food joint across the street. And man, they would try so hard to kick these balls over the fence. I've only, in like the 8 or 9 years that I was in and out of juvenile hall, I think I've only bought 2 milkshakes for kids who have kicked it way over the fence. It's a big deal. It's like an ongoing thing. So if a sub comes in and everything, they're like, are you gonna buy us a milkshake if we get it over the wall? Yeah, these kids work for treats. I mean, that is a huge.
And when it hits mid-wall, I'm gonna guess they're really frustrated at that point, huh? When they get really close. And
there's barbed wire on the top of it, so if it hits the wire and doesn't go over, it just kills the ball. That's the end of the game.
Oh, that's sad. Yes. Oh.
And then nobody likes Jimmy for kicking it over.
No, you ruined it. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good stuff.
For a while.
I was going to say, well, let's go down this crazy pathway, and maybe this will bring up some stories. Romance in the juvie hall. How does that go?
Oh yeah, we've had it's I mean,
I didn't even think about that.
When spring comes around, like it's
the running season.
Yeah, and then sometimes we had a couple that came in. I mean, total like Bonnie and Clyde type situation. They nearly killed her mother.
Oh my goodness.
Stole the car and went on a rampage, and then they were locked up together, and God forbid that boy spoke to another female. I mean, this girl was from across wherever, was going crazy and gonna attack her. I mean, across desks, across the lunchroom, food flying, and on the PE field, anything, you know, like God forbid he talked to anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of misguided romance in there. They can't touch each other. They can't stand within a certain amount of each other.
Okay.
They can't pass notes to each other. So, like, these are things that we all have to monitor all the time. Mm-hmm. There's some crazy stories from back in the day when there used to be, like, a library room and letting students go in the library room more than one at a time.
No.
Yeah, and
you don't want a kid getting pregnant in jail. That lands on the news.
Yeah.
No. We've had lots of pregos in there, though.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, they were obsessed with my pregnancy, and I was a miserable pregnant person. I'm like, just wait. And I was 30. I'm like, you guys, just wait. Like, I had so much fun in my teens and my 20s. I partied so hard, and now I'm ready to settle down and have kids. Sure enough, though, within 6 months, like 4 out of the 5 of them were pregnant.
Oh,
wow.
It's job security, but it's also kind of sad.
Yeah. And some of that it's weird. I mean, I know biologically it doesn't work that way, but it sometimes can be contagious, you know?
Yeah.
They're like,
these kids who grow up in broken homes, they have this very romanticized view that now I'm going to have a baby that's going to love me unconditionally no matter what. But they don't know how to be a parent, and
they see the attention that the pregnant person's getting as well, and they want that attention. Yeah. Yeah. Or a way to kind of lock in a relationship, I'm sure, as well sometimes.
Yeah. And going back to, the unhealthy relationships of, we'll stay together, we'll have a kid and then that'll fix everything.
Yes. Yeah.
It happens.
So, all right. So you've talked a couple times about, kids who, fights have broken out. Kids can just go ballistic. I'm sure you deal with a lot of kids with a lot of anger issues, with just a lot of issues in general. And you said you're 5'2"?
Yeah.
So what do you do when kid goes ballistic?
Well, if I'm in juvenile hall, my job is to manage the crowd. The corrections officers manage the fight. They don't want me getting involved at all. Don't put your hands on anybody, I'm trained in CPI. I don't know if you guys do that. East Coast.
What's CPI stand for?
I think that's the security commercials they put on late at night for old people.
Yeah.
It's crisis prevention intervention. So it is like hands-on techniques to protect you from a kid who's kind of going crazy. But outside of juvenile hall, when fights happen in the community school, who's there to stop it? So I have definitely pulled girls off of other girls and had to step into fights between big dudes and until the police can come and really break it up. But I work, some of the staff people I work with are a little bit older. And so I don't want them jumping in and I don't want the kids hurting each other. So sometimes I jump in. I haven't ever gotten hurt though.
And the kids never break up the fight themselves, I guess. They're not stepping in and trying to slow down or stop a fight.
Sometimes they will. The fight will just run its course or someone gets knocked out. But the girl fights are a little harder to break up because they're just grabbing each other's hair and screaming, and there's not as much actual blows taking place as when the boys are fighting.
Yeah.
But they don't see me when they're in that state. They're totally blacked out in anger. So even if I'm a teacher that they love and respect, and I'm standing in front of them pushing them back, or not pushing them because I don't have my hands on someone, but my body is in between them, and I'm trying to rile them with my body. They don't necessarily see that it's me, So it's crazy. Yeah. Earlier this school year, I had a student bust out a window with his elbow.
Oh wow!
He didn't stop. Like, he wasn't himself, but he didn't stop until he saw the blood in his hand.
Ooh.
And then the ambulance showed up and took him away. And next day, he was very sorry that he was suspended.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've broken up a number of fights, and I was going to say, the girl fights are way worse. It's
touching and the hair pulling, and it's hard to get a girl's fingers out of another girl's hair when they're just.
Because it seems like, and I know I'm generalizing here, but what I've seen a lot of times, it seems like the guys want to feel like they won, and it seems like the girls just want to hurt something. Like it's a different mentality.
I'd say that's accurate. Yeah.
Jeez. In
juvenile hall, though, what's more likely to happen in juvenile hall is they know that the COs are going to break up the fight. So the smaller kid will often be the one to throw the first punch because as long as he can show the other kids that he's tough enough, that he's not going to take it and he's willing to fight, he might get hit a couple times back by the other kid, but the COs are right there to break it up. Right. So they know that they're not actually going to fight. They're just going to throw a punch so that they can prove their toughness and
earn their stripes, so to speak.
In the order,
Yeah. I was talking to some security guards about that at my school this year. Yeah, they're talking to kids. They're like, why would you fight on campus? Why not leave campus and fight where no adults are going to break it up? And I said, no, the whole point is that the adults are going to break it up.
Right. Yeah.
Like they like that safety.
So they'll fight near security, They'll fight in the lunchroom, right in front of them, or right in the door of the classroom, right when they walk in. It's just. And then it happens, but the whole day is wonky after that, because everybody's so fired up. And then there's all the paperwork that come with that and everything. So, all the incident reports and injury reports.
I do not envy that.
No. Well, it's been really interesting. I'm really glad that we got you on.
I do have one last question.
Okay.
Do you think there's any big misconceptions about your job? Like just the general public or teachers don't seem to understand?
I think the perception that the kids are bad, that they don't look at them as a whole. You know, they're only looking maybe at their crime, and, you know, understanding that drug addiction is a mental health disease. You know, we're more willing to accept that someone is schizophrenic and did something crazy because they were off their meds than a juvenile drug addict doing the same thing. So I think that's a big misconception. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. And just not judging these kids and recognizing, like, maybe they didn't even ever have a stable adult in their life, whether it's a parent or a teacher or whatever. They had no guidance. They had no mentorship. This is what they know to be okay. You don't have something, you steal it. You want what that guy has, you take it. You fight for what you want. But, you know, they're just babies, you know. They just have been through so much and seen so much in life, so much more than the adults that judge them. I hear that so much from people, that I think that would be the thing that I would want people to understand.
Yeah. Well, just kind of related to that, I was going to ask you, how good is your lie detector, and how much did you have to develop your lie detector from like to the beginning to now?
Just assume they're always lying.
Wow.
Just like the doctor knows, like if he says like, oh, how many drinks do you have a week? Oh, I have 2 to 3. Okay, that's like 6 to 8. Right. So same with the kids. Yeah, I don't believe it until I see it, basically. Mm-hmm. And I call them out on that too. Like, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. You know, show me the work or show me the effort. But yeah, you just have to assume they're all lying. They all look up to the left or right or whichever direction it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Whenever any of my colleagues are, you know, try to label any of my kids or their kids like, oh, this is a bad kid, I always try to remind them, look, nobody is evil. Some people are crazy, but nobody is evil. And
a lot of them learn it, you know, from their community. Working with a low socioeconomic group, you know, their values are different than mine. They're not planning long term. They're not looking towards like, oh, where are you going to go to college, or what do you want to study if you go to college? They're thinking about, where am I going to sleep tonight? Or is there going to be someone home when I get home? Is there any food in my house? You know, all that super sad stuff that a lot of teachers, they want to, you know, the kid who's acting out, negative attention is the only attention he's ever gotten or she's ever gotten.
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, and I was going to say, on that note, just, you know, a huge thank you and props and respect and all of that for, like, you know, people tell us all the time to just go, I'm sure you get it, like, oh, I couldn't do what you do. But, like, and then we go, yeah, but we couldn't do what, like, some of our colleagues do. I look at some people who are, that do what you do, or some people who work in, like, special ed or, you know, with that, and I go, I'm like, I don't know how you, gonna spend, like, all that time doing that or deal with this, challenge, all that. And I truly do believe, whether it's the kind of teacher that I am, just a regular high school math teacher, what you are, and you kind of seem to allude to this way early back on, that it's a calling, that it really is, that you're either made to do it and you can't not do it, or you'll never be able to do it.
True. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I appreciate everyone, you know, like you said, it's a calling. You kind of stumble into what works for you and what's right for you. I'm really lucky to have found this.
All right. We're going to wrap it up here. So, we just appreciate, Cerise being on here, and, we're going to, put the IMDB link to, her dad. And all right. Well, thank you guys. And,
thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do. I've had a lot of students that, you know, I work really hard with them, and, you know, but they'll go back to their homes and they don't come from a healthy home life, and I'll hear that they got arrested and they're going to juvie. And in my head for a while, it's always been like, oh man, I guess, you know, I won't see this kid again. So I'm like, I guess that's the end of the story. But it's so nice talking to you and hearing like that's not the end of the story, and there's still so many more adults there to support those kids.
Yeah. So, and it might take them a few years to find their way, but a lot of them do grow out of it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And just, we always say at the end, stay unprofessional.
And that's it. That's the whole episode. You heard it. Congratulations. And you made it all the way to the end. Which, honestly, more congratulations to you. Unless you're possibly tied down in a chair in someone's basement. I don't know whether they would use this to torture you, though. I mean, there's so many more irritating, audible choices. But thanks for sticking with us anyway. Take this moment. Like, subscribe. If you can, leave us some love. Leave us some comments. Tell us if any of this helps, or if you're interested in getting more guests just like this. Yeah, keep us in the loop. All right, stand professional.